So here's the deal. Being a 90s baby and having played the original Crash Bandicoot during the height of its popularity, I can say that I am extremely well versed in the gameplay, mechanics, and the playstyle of the original game released in 1996. This isn't to say that I'm an expert in the series. My experience with the Crash series only extends through the first game. I was able to beat the kart racing game Crash Team Racing, which did not make an appearance in the remaster series much to my disappointment, and I played the crap out of the Mario Party clone Crash Bash. My experience with Naughty Dog's original platformer is minimal at best. However, it's the amount of time that I did spend with the game that I consider to be where my credibility to make this video comes from. Over the course of 20 or so years, I have played the original game over and over again. As a matter of fact, I still have my original game disc from all those years ago tucked safely away in a CD holder in my room. I purchased and downloaded the original game in digital form the day that it was released for digital downloading on my PlayStation Portable and on my PlayStation 3, and it would have been on my Vita if it weren't for the fact that the game can't be transferred to the Vita. Now, I have purchased and played through the complete first game in all of its remake glory. I have to say, I'm very impressed with the results of the remake, and I believe that Vicarious Visions deserves every bit of praise that it gets. There is one thing that really gets me though, and it's not from the game or the developers or the publisher, which, given who it is, I'm very surprised they didn't do something to completely spoil the reputation of the franchise. No, I'm talking about the fans and the player base of the new N'Sane Trilogy. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with them. Their concerns and voiced opinions certainly have merit, especially those of us that have played and stuck by the game for as long as we have. There is one thing I have a problem with, and that is saying that the game is just too damn hard. I never intended to pick up the remake edition of Crash Bandicoot. I was more than positive that I had played the hell out of the game, and that a simple remake of the game wouldn't mean much in the way of the franchise, save for introducing a younger generation of players to what I would consider a true platformer. However, when the player base got a hold of the new game, I began hearing about how difficult the game was. Even veterans of the series were complaining that the game was much more difficult than they remembered. I didn't believe a word of it. There had to be something else going on here. Turns out there was. In creating a PlayStation classic from scratch, there were some design choices that had to be made. One of which made a decent amount of sense to me. The decision to share the physics of the most well-rounded game of the trio. The one where Naughty Dog really caught their stride. Crash Bandicoot Warped. Would this simple change really make the game more difficult though? All it takes is a simple readjustment of the traditional platforming that I've grown accustomed to. Once again, I was right. In the way of the mechanic change, there was something very familiar and yet completely different about the way that Crash handled in his old environment. Jumps didn't feel as precise, control in the air seemed to have been toned down. There was a momentum and timing to Crash's run and jump that really messed up the old timings that I had gotten down to muscle memory. His jump was able to drop at any point by simply releasing the arrow button. All of these changes were definitely new, and I felt myself tripping up in sections that I felt I had perfected all of those years ago. More specifically, the level Hog Wild. In the original Crash game, control of the Hog felt much more responsive, and moving from one side of the corridor to the other felt much snappier. In the new game, however, the weight and deliberateness of moving could definitely be felt in the game's only auto-scroller. This was a significant change. However, like learning the game all over again, I could forgive these changes. The changes that I could not forgive, however, have come in the shape of hitboxes. In 90s Crash, there was a level of forgiveness for mistiming a jump. The hitboxes were just that, boxes. I've come to find the hitboxes for platforms in the new game are rounded off, causing slippage and very frequently death in sections of platforming where the ratio of platform to bottomless pit was skewed in the pit's favor. But the biggest change to affect my experience was also one of the smallest, the change to the spin mechanic. In the original Crash had 3 spins that he could hit consecutively before the game would put the spin on a minor cooldown to prevent spin spamming players from cheesing the majority of the game. However, in the new Crash, there is no such thing. There is a total of 1 spin attack for every half second that can be activated, and while this may seem to be nothing major, it messes up the timing of enemy placements in a big way. I might be reading too much into it, as the casual Crash gamer won't be able to notice a change so small, but I noticed it immediately after dying to the second in a line of spaced enemies that I would have had no problem to defeat before. So what am I actually saying here? That Crash Bandicoot is really a hard game? Have the mechanics changed enough to warrant the game earning the reputation it seems to have gotten? Short answer? No. There is nothing in Crash Bandicoot 2017 to warrant having a reputation of being difficult, at least to the point of being compared to the likes of games of Dark Souls. Simply put, there is no such comparison. True that there has to be a level of deliberate play that is reminiscent of a game like Dark Souls, but having played every Soulsborne style game, save for the last one, there is absolutely no comparison. I just think that gamers as a whole have just forgotten how to play a platforming game. This was one of the first popular platforming games the world had seen, and since then, the genre of platforming has become a niche market. In this current generation of gaming, the platformer is no longer seen as a standalone genre of gaming, but a subgenre to much more popular genres such as the action RPG or roguelikes. Now that we've seen a traditional standalone platformer in 2017, we're just trying to remember what it was like to play a game that tested our skill and dexterity as much as traditional platformers have. And yes, I will admit that the developers over at Vicarious have done things that don't exactly help the game's case. I think that this is a very solid reintroduction to the platforming genre that I believe needs to make a comeback. So, in a few words, Crash Bandicoot 2017 is challenging, but not difficult.
Game
oh yeah,
over.
I forgot you existed.